Welcome to TQ Training. Today we're looking at Spreadsheet Tutorial 2, Formatting Part 2 of 2. Today we're going to look at resizing columns and rows, right-click formatting, and borders, colour and size as a reminder of Part 1 of 2. This was the spreadsheet that we formatted in Part 1, clear and easy to read. And today we're starting with another unformatted spreadsheet. This has the same problems in that it's completely unformatted and is a bit hard to read, but has some additional problems that we need to work on. The first problem are these columns. This column in particular isn't wide enough. In cell A3 here, there's a word that doesn't fit. When we click it and look up here, we can see that cell contained the word qualification doesn't fit in that column width. The words exam cost and receipt cost, they don't fit either, but this one particularly is out. You can't even tell what the word is. The other problem that we have with this spreadsheet is that it contains some numbers and we don't know what they are. So here we've got an exam cost for English is 25, but is that £25, 25 euros, etc.? We need to format that. And if it is pounds, we have a problem with this cell because this says 15.5. But you can't have £15.5, it will be £15.50. So this also needs formatting. Let's start with our problem with these columns not being wide enough. There are multiple ways of changing a column width. The most basic one is by manually dragging it. So when we move the cursor around a spreadsheet and we go up here, you'll see the spreadsheet cursor turns into this black cross with arrows. Left click, hold it, and drag it changes the width. You can see the word width is increasing or decreasing as I manually move it around. I get it to roughly where I think it's going to be, let go, and now that column is wider and the word qualification fits. Let's make that back to how it was, and let's look at the second way of doing it. You move your cursor to that shape and size again. Instead of clicking and dragging, you double click, and the cell exam expenses is the widest in this column, so it's made the column as wide as the widest word. Let's drag that back to how it was, because our other option is to right click, column width, and we can choose how wide we want that column to be. Let's make it 25. Way too wide, but there you can see how it would work. If we go up there and double click, it goes back to the best fit. We have the same problem with exam cost and receipt cost, and we could choose to double click and double click. There is another way of doing it. Let's undo those double clicks that we just did. Exam cost with a left click, right click, and we're going to go into format cells. Format cells is an option you're going to use an awful lot with spreadsheets, so get used to this one. When we left click the word format cells, we've got all these tabs of all things we can do, and we need to look at alignment. We're aligning the text, and if we select wrap text and then click OK, it's taken the words exam and cost and put them underneath each other to make it fit. So the column width hasn't changed at all. In fact, if we want to, we could now click and drag this and make it even shorter. Let's have a look at this one, receipt cost. Right click, format cells, wrap the text, OK, and again if we wanted to make it smaller, we can reshape it like that. So why didn't we choose that option when we had qualification? So the word qualification didn't fit in the box. So let's try formatting it the same way. Right click, format the cells, wrap the text. This time it hasn't worked because the word qualification was all one word, and no matter what we do, it's not going to fit in a column this wide. So whereas exam and cost were two separate words so it could move them on separate lines, it's just split the word up. Doesn't look as effective as it could, so we don't like that. We have another option, right click, format cells again. This time let's have a look at shrink to fit. This will shrink the word to its biggest possible size to fit in that column width. And there it has done it. Qualification. The problem with that is that is now too small for us to read. If we drag that, make it a bit bigger, the word qualification will get bigger and bigger because we've told it to fit the cell. And we'll keep it like that. Let's make these a little bit wider to make them a bit easier to read. And there we have it. We've changed the height of rows and we've changed the width of columns. With our row height, if we wanted to, we could, using that same shape of icon again, to drag that down our cursor, and we can drag that down, and we can play with this as much as we want. Let's take it back to how it was. Our other problem with these numbers, we don't know what format they should be in, and if they're pounds, this number was wrong. If we click the cell, left click to highlight it, right click to select it, into our favourite option, Format Cells. This time we need to go into the Numbers tab, and we're playing with currency. So our spreadsheet is being quite clever. It's figured out that we want pounds, and it's put it to 2 decimal places because pounds are always 2 decimal places. It doesn't always get it right, and it doesn't always know what to select, but you can pick what you want from this drop down menu. And as you can see as I scroll down here, there's all sorts of different currencies and types and versions of euros, etc. Let's go back to what we had. 2 decimal places, pound signs, we like that, click on OK, and it's turned into £25. Of course you can manually click on every single cell and do that, or manually type the pound sign in front. If this were a big spreadsheet, that would really not be very manageable. So we're going to do it in a more effective way. We click the entire column that we want, and then with our cursor at the top, we right click, Format Cells, Currency, again it's got it correct, pound signs, 2 decimal places, OK. Now what this has done is it's changed our 15.5 to £15.50. So that's great, that's what we wanted it to do. And because we told it to do this entire column, if later down the line we are adding a qualification into here, let's say we're adding history, and the resit cost for that is £12.40, it's formatted it for us because we've told it anything in this column with numbers will be formatted like that. Let's just take that back. Do the same thing with this one. Select the column with a left click, right click, Format Cells, Currency. Now for whatever reason it's decided not to put the symbol in, and we wanted pounds. So whenever you do your formatting, make sure that the spreadsheet hasn't missed something out. And there we have nicely formatted spreadsheet with pounds, with 2 decimal places, with columns and rows that are the right size, and this spreadsheet is suddenly a lot easier to read and to understand. In session 1 we did some colour formatting and some margin centre and borders, so let's do that now, but we're going to have a look at 2 ways of doing it. The way we used last time, click and drag to highlight an area, we selected the kind of border that we wanted, and we were done. We also selected colours by clicking and dragging and selecting. There are other ways of doing it. If we highlight those cells, left click and go into our favourite Format Cells option, we've got borders, we've got filling in, we've got font, so we can change it to italic, to bold, we can change the different sizes. We have a slight problem with this formatting in that when we're doing it through here, we don't know what it's going to look like until we've selected everything. So say for example we want to change this colour to that, we know it's going to look like that, but it's not showing us on here what it will look like. So we have to select it and then see. And if you don't like it, undo it. If we click and drag and then press Ctrl and hold it and click and drag, we've now selected multiple cells. Again we right click, Format Cells, let's make it that colour blue. We can add patterns, Let's put that pattern in there. So it's going to look like that, and click on OK. Absolutely awful. We can't read it. No good. Take it back to how it was. When you're doing it live on here, when you change the colours like that, you can see what you're doing. We can only change one thing at a time. So you need to be able to play around with this and decide what works best for you. The right click or doing it manually using the options at the top. Select and drag to the width of our table. Merge and center. Let's change the size. Let's change the font. Put it in bold. Maybe not the best choice of font, a bit harder to read, but for the sake of it you can just see how we're formatting things and clicking and dragging and changing and formatting. That's what the sheet originally looked like. That's what it looks like now, and hopefully you'll agree that it's much easier to read the information and read the numbers in its reformatted way. The aim of today's session was to look at resizing columns and rows, which we've done, right-click formatting, which we'll be using an awful lot, and a quick reminder of border, colour and size. The best advice now is to use this right-click formatting on your spreadsheets and play with it and practice and see what it can do. And that's the end of today's session.